Adobe's also made some changes to the crop tool inside of Photoshop CS6. If you've used Lightroom before, it's actually kind of a lot like Lightroom is now. Okay, it works very similar. So we click on the crop tool over here, and of course it works. You know, I'm not going to make this more difficult than it is. It works very much the same as you think it does. You can just kind of move the image around here. But you'll get to see you kind of have a view up here. You can change the rule of thirds. You can change it to grid, change it to diagonal, all these different ones. I kind of like rule of thirds, so I would leave it up there. One of the other things that you'll see is that we have presets. All right, so if I want to crop just to an 8:10, I can click on that, and it lets me crop to just a specific aspect ratio rather than coming over here and typing it in up at the top here. It lets me go with all these presets. And of course, you can save your own presets. So if you come up with presets that you're using, whether they're for the web or whatever it happens to be, you can come over there and you can save them as well. Okay. Now, probably one of the biggest features is that, see this little checkbox up at the top? Delete cropped pixels. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the check mark, which is going to kind of confirm my crop. All right. So I've cropped my photo. But if I go back, so I do something else here. If I go back to the crop tool, check out what I can do. See how I bring back the rest of the image. And let's get off of our aspect ratio that we had over there. But it lets me bring back the original image. So before, the crop tool would delete everything that you'd cropped out. And if you wanted to get back to any other part of your photo, you were going to have to go in there and you're going to have to undo until you got to that point. So now again, it works a lot like Lightroom does, which is it's non-destructive. Okay, it's just non-destructive. It's not deleting the pixels; they're still there. So if you go back into the crop tool, you can always get to them. If you come over here, here's a neat one too. So we used to have to go to the eyedropper tool. Here, let's choose don't crop here. Let's go to the eyedropper tool. We used to have to go to the ruler tool and then click and drag along the horizon line and then click the straighten layer up at the top here. So we don't have to do that anymore. Let's go up here to our crop and let's go over here and let's bring back our original image. And so I can show you that. So you can see we have a horizon line that's crooked here. So I just take my straighten tool and all I've got to do is just click and drag along what should be straight. Okay, that's all. Click and drag along what should be straight. And Photoshop automatically straightens it for you. All right. And then you can come over here and just kind of bring it in so that it gets rid of any of those little transparent areas that you might have from straightening a photo, and click that little checkbox. So now we no longer have to go to the eyedropper or ruler tool and then click on the straighten button. We actually have straightening, image straightening where it should be, which is with the crop tool. The last thing that you'll notice here, and it's a different behavior, is I'm going to bring my cursor outside the crop boundary. And as I start to change it, look what happens here. Before, your crop boundary would rotate and your image would stay put. So now your cropping area is actually staying put, but the image is rotating around it. So I don't have to kind of tilt my head, because this is what I used to have. I mean, you used to if you rotated, you'd rotate and the crop boundary would rotate, not the image. So the crop boundary would actually be diagonal rather than straight across. And you'd have to tilt your head to kind of get a feeling for what your image is going to look like when you hit enter or return. So instead, it's actually rotating the image itself. So now you know what your image is going to look like because it's right inside of this little crop area here. So you don't have to tilt your head back and forth. All right. So if you use Lightroom, this is probably nothing new. You're probably like, hey, this is the same crop tool we've had for years. But if you use Photoshop, and especially if you use a program like Lightroom and Photoshop, at least now we're starting to get similar experiences across the programs, because I know a lot of people will start their photos in Lightroom, but then come over to Photoshop to do retouching and different things like that. And to have the same tools across all the different programs really helps out quite a bit.